Yes, this is Good Morning Anambra and it's the newspaper headlines. Joining me this morning is Ambassador Timothy Nwachukwu, a public affairs commentator. Together we'll be looking at the papers or the dailies this morning. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Anambra.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again.
Welcome. We'll run now with ABS website, and from ABS website we have Cardinal Arinze rededicates St. Joseph's Catholic Church Aguleri, rebuilt by Governor Obiano. Ideke Secondary School in Iyowo sends SOS to Anambra government over encroachment by herdsmen. Emblem Appeal Fund. Obiano lauds contributions of Nigeria Armed Forces to nation building. 2019, INEC sees collaboration with stakeholders in distribution of PVC's voter education. Southeast Development Commission will reposition the region. That's coming from Senator Ume. Maybe we'll begin with that story on Southeast Development Commission. Recently, the National Assembly passed into law the SEDC bill. Looking at the implementation of the commissions for Niger Delta and Northeast, do you think this would be a step in the right direction and will achieve its purpose in Southeast?
I want to start by commending the initiators of the bill, and permit me to tell you that the Southeast Development Commission bill is long overdue. Because, in fact, it should have been long after the Nigeria Biafra War. Of course, remember we have the 3R, the reconciliation and the reconstruction, but it never saw the light of the day. And funny enough, the relics of the Civil War is still there with us, and there were no plans by the federal government back then to develop the Southeast region that suffered such calamity during the war. So I want to appreciate the sponsors of the bill. It's a welcome development, and I believe if the federal government will provide funding for Southeast development, it will go a long way to engender development in the Southeast region. It
will go a long way to engender development in the Southeast region, but considering the semi-autonomous nature of the states, do you think they can pull together to make sure that this commission thrives, actually?
Yeah, of course, I believe. Remember, prior to our shift to presidential system of government, we had a true federal system of government, or the region, what we call it. When Dr. Michael Okpara was there, remember, it was the eastern region, and of course, the developmental strides were spread to every state in the then eastern region. And when it comes to Southeast development, we've seen Southeast Economic Summit. We've seen cases where Southeast governors come together to make statements for one common goal. So I believe that when it comes to issues that affect the Igbos entirely, that they will close ranks and come together to achieve the common good of
All
the
right,
Southeast.
they will close ranks and to achieve the common goods of the people. 2019 INEC sees collaboration with stakeholders in distribution of PVCs and in voter education.
Yeah, of course, it's a welcome development. The INEC can't do it alone. That is why we have the Civil Liberties Organization. We have so many NGOs. That is where they come to partner with INEC. We can't leave. Of course, every Nigerian wants free and fair election. If we want free and fair election, of course, all stakeholders must be involved, not just in the distribution of the voters' card, but in enlightenment, because currently voters, there are allegations that some politicians are buying or cloning the PVCs. So it's a welcome development by INEC partnering with the various agencies, the various NGOs.
All right. Remember that you can join the discussion, make your contributions, ask questions on the issues we are looking at this morning by calling the phone lines on your screen. But remember that when you call us, lower the volume on your TV set so that we wouldn't be having holdbacks. We can get what you're saying. Now we'll move over to the Daily Sun newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Sun, the banner headline there, Boko Haram, surrender now, dad begs son, regrets inability to convince him to abandon insurgency. Beside the nameplate there, we have elections. INEC wants police to lead new security structure. Meets with heads of security agencies in Abuja. Buhari will review salaries above minimum wage. Names Rwanda head of technical panel. Ekiti, Fayemi planning to frustrate Atiku campaign that's coming from PDP. We are victims of fake news. Osibanjo and Shoyinka. Kalu receives Dawn, others into Abia APC. Maybe let's begin with the issue of minimum wage. Certainly, this discussion will not end in the nearest future until it's implemented. Let's look at the Presidential Advisory Committee that was set up yesterday. Do you think the caliber of men in that committee can drive the implementation of that minimum wage?
The issue is not about the caliber of men in the committee. Of course, I believe they will be able to do a nice job. But the point should be the willingness, the commitment of the federal government to implement the outcome of the committee. The last time I was here, I told you that Nigeria is one interesting country where a commission is set up. After that, the report will be subjected to another committee's report, to another committee. After that, to be subjected to another committee. At the end of the day, you discover that the government ends up buying more time. I think the president is intelligent. The election is very close. And NLC, the other day, they went on protest. And NLC may want to go on strike. What he does the right thing by setting up but the point should be, after they are done with the recommendation of whatever, the president, the federal government should have the willingness to implement it.
Yes,
remember, the president said that NLC wants to cause inflation in the country. So it's as if he's speaking from the double side of his mouth. On the other hand, he's trying to blame Nigeria Labour Congress. On the other hand, he's setting up a committee. Of course, remember that the minimum wage that Nigerian workers are receiving is one of the lowest across the
board. You said their commitment or the willingness of the federal government. But remember, let's look at the committee very well. Bismarck Rimwane is a very strong critique of the economic policies of the federal government. He's heading this committee. He's from the private sector, and I don't think he's a card-carrying member of the APC. Isn't that step a show of commitment that, look, the federal government is ready to implement maybe policies that will be suggested by this committee?
They are just a committee. They will do their work and they will submit their report to the president. So the ball now shifts to the table of the president to implement the recommendation. The committee do not have power to pay the wages. Remember, the state government says they can't pay. The governor of Kogi State the other day said that he can't pay workers their December salary because he's not a Christian. So why will people complain? So it's not just about the committee, it's about the willingness of the federal and the state government to implement the report of the committee.
Buhari also says he will review salaries above minimum wage. There are people, maybe political appointees and other persons earning without the salary structure in place. Do you think this will be shooting himself on the foot?
We've seen governments come, we've seen governments go. Most times these are political speeds just to earn the sympathy of Nigerians and Labour Congress in particular. Of course, Nigerians has been clamoring for a review of the salaries of not just political appointees, but our elected representatives. It was not too long ago that Senator Shehu Sani made Nigerians to realize how much a senator earns. So the issue is not about making the political statement, it's about having the will to even carry it out.
All right. Let's now look at INEC wants police to lead new security structure, meets with heads of security agencies in Abuja. Yesterday, he was calling for a re-strategizing of how security forces are deployed in elections. Do you think that this call is coming way too late?
No, it's not coming way too late. Of course, for election to be successful, for election to be violent-free, INEC need the collaboration of...
Okay, before you continue, let's take this person. Hello. Hello. Hello, good morning. Yes, can you raise your voice a little bit? It seems you are... Oh, please, when you call us, increase the volume of your voice, but not the volume of your TV set. All right, go on.
So I was trying to say that it is not coming late, because for us to have a successful election, we need the security agencies. Of course, if for every flawed election, there are two groups of people to blame aside the politicians. You blame INEC, the officials, and you blame the security agencies. I think the Nigerian police should be able to do more to guarantee free and fair election. In Osun State, in Ekiti State, we've seen Nigerian police and other security agencies being partisan. You know, they are being seen to be in favor of a particular political party.
Okay.
So this time around, if we must have a free and fair election, that we should be able to set standard to other countries in Africa.
Hello. Good morning. Hello? Hello, go on. Please call us back. It seems there is network issue from where you're calling, please. I think it will get better if you call back. Now, let's move over to the Daily Times. There are still stories on that issue that we might go back to. On the front page of the Daily Times, Buhari warns against use of public funds for campaign. Says he won't authorize use of money for treasury for his re-election. Wants party faithful to use tests, multimedia messages to canvass for votes. INEC demands new security architecture for election. PDP government will reverse 10 million lost jobs, Atiku promises. Exam malpractice, Edo government suspends 28 principals, queries 28 others. Dangote still the richest man in Africa. That's coming from Forbes. And beside the nameplate there, on top of the page, we have financial experts, Rewane chairs minimum wage technical committee. We've made adequate provision for increase in 2019 budget. Let's look at the front page there. In proactive move against graft, Buhari warns against use of public funds for campaign.
Of course, that is what every politician will tell you. Remember, the present administration accused the past administration of looting or using the fund earmarked for security for election. Most times the government says something, but they do something else. How do I mean? Buhari says the president said he's not going to authorize using public funds. The question is this: will the cabals around him authorize the use of public funds? Because most times we've seen when a president said, I will not do this, but the body language of the people around him or his body language speaks otherwise. And of course, we know that in Nigeria, we've seen, it's very rare for governors, most times when they make donations, do they donate from their private pockets?
Or from the public
Or
purse?
from the public purse.
Hello? Hello? All right. Still, let's look at this issue very critically. Do you think civil society organizations have actually sat up in monitoring election funding? Because we know that, yes, the government can express intention to say this thing will stop, but the commitment might not be feasible if the civil society do not come up. You come from that constituency.
Yeah.
Do you think you people have done enough in ensuring that election funding are monitored properly?
Yes, of course. Over the years, the civil society has been up on that area, trying to see that election funds are being monitored. But the question is this: you know what? My problem with Nigeria is that when people go against the law, nothing is actually done to them. Of course, after every election, you see reports from various civil society organizations, report from Clean Foundation, from the rest of them, and then they tell you that this is what transpired, this is the shortcomings, this is the areas where we had challenges, and this is the way forward. But at the end of the day, you discover that nobody wants to listen to them, nobody wants to implement it. And funny enough, most times it looks as if the civil societies are talking to Nigerians, to the electorate,
and not to the main actors.
To the main actors.
So how would the civil society talk to the main actors?
I think if the civil society, if various groups, if they can come together, unite together, and embark on a peaceful process to press home their demand.
All right. The discussions will continue. We'll move over now to the Nation newspaper. On the front page of the Nation, federal government to renegotiate salaries above 30,000 naira. Rewane Fowler, Teriba, Omogi, Okuni, others on minimum wage panel. Osibanjo Soyinka criminalized fake news. Dad urges Boko Haram's son to surrender. Sale of JAM form begins. World Bank project 2.2 million growth for Nigeria. Ogu slams Ndidi, okay, for snow. Let's look at World Bank project 2.2% growth for Nigeria.
It is a projection. Remember, when a projection is made, of course, there are things you must do for you to be able to act, to be able to get to a particular destination. Making that projection, they are looking at some sectors, maybe the agricultural sector, the manufacturing sectors, and the power sectors. And if things we should be able to work well in all those sectors, that we will have growth in so areas. And of course, it's a welcome development. And I think the presidency should be able to look into the report and possibly see a way to adhere to it and identify those critical sectors that the critical sectors which they must have earmarked as areas that could drive this potential growth we're talking about. If Nigerian government do not look at those sectors, do not fund it, do not take proactive action measures on it, at the end of the day, it will remain just a projection.
All right, on the front page of the Sun, we have Buhari governors may clash as federal government sets up advisory panel. On the front page of the Punch, minimum wage, Buhari governors may clash as federal government sets up advisory panel. If the president goes ahead to send a bill that will contain 30,000 naira to the National Assembly without considering what we've told him, there will be crisis in the country. Governor, Nigeria debt hits 22.43 trillion. Soyinka attacks ex-president for supporting a devil. PDP slams Buhari APC for Jigawa disruption. Club raid. Lagos command arrest 13 calls for unprofessional conduct. We'll also take The Guardian now. Federal government to review salaries of workers earning above minimum wage. Burning of Governor Samuel's Autumn's farm. I thought I was dead when I felt the bullet on my stomach, says short journalist. That's the aftermath of the Lagos crisis. Youth to determine next president, says online poll. UN, INEC urge better security over Northeast. Crisis and pools. Let's look at the issue of Northeast getting ready for the election. We have just less than 36 days to February 16 and a few days to March 2nd elections. Do you think with what we're seeing in the Northeast, there will be a free, fair elections in that region?
I don't think there will be a free, fair elections in that region because Nigeria, one of the things that Nigeria is bereft of is data, statistics, data. We don't have it. Now, can INEC boldly tell Nigerians that as a result of the insurgency, of course, before the insurgency, there was a data of registered voters. Now, most of them has been killed. Do INEC know the number of persons that have been killed? Do INEC know the number of persons who are in IDP centers? Do INEC know the number of persons who are in so many places?
And even how would that IDP centers be managed for them to participate in the election?
This is a question that is left for INEC to answer. Just like these issues I'm trying to raise right now, we discover that these are indices that will enable the average politicians to rig the election. There are so many local governments that election is supposed to take place. But remember that there are reports of recent that the Boko Haram insurgents have encroached in some areas. The question is, will there still be election in those areas? Do we have data? We don't.
Okay, finally, on the note, the election is 36 days to go. And according to the statistics released by INEC, students and the youths will determine who wins what in 2019 elections. Youths have 51.1%, as the total statistics of those who registered and students more than 26.6% on the average. You're from that constituency again. Do you think the students and youths, the young people, are ready to do the right thing these elections?
I believe the young people are ready. And remember, so many young persons, we've been told that we're the future of tomorrow.
Yes.
Future leaders. And I believe that, there's this consciousness, the not too young to run act is already there. That this consciousness in political participation, not leaving it to the aged persons. But I would like to make an appeal to all young persons across Nigeria, not just to collect their PVCs and stay at home and do online voting. No, but on that day, let's go out, let's vote, let's elect our leaders. All
right, Ambassador Timothy Nwachukwu joined us this morning as we looked at the newspapers, national dailies, and as well ABS websites across board. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We'll now move over now for our discussion segment. This morning, we'll be looking at dangers of vote buying. What does it portend for our democracy and for the electoral process in Nigeria? Stay with us.